If you are wanting to play the rest of that song, then you want to show up next week when we do the tutorial on all of the notes. I'll give them to you today, but if you want a tutorial on it, then if you're in the archives, then check the archives. We probably already live streamed it. If you are live, then we're doing this next week. Today, we're going to lay down the foundations with the theory of this song. So I'm going to show you what's actually happening in here. And if you already understood everything that I just played, you understand what happened in there with modulations and with turnarounds and its relationship to George Gershwin and tritone subs. If all of that made sense and you think you could play that right now, you probably don't need this lesson, because that's what we're going to cover right now, is to try to figure out what in the world is going on here, why it sounds so cool, and why it sounds so like retro-y, like I've heard that song before, and yet so uniquely the Muppets. Let's go ahead and get into it. So, like I said, I've given you the notes here on this next page and written it out as sheet music. So this is a lot of the notes that you're going to get next week in the tutorial. So you can just like read the dots here. C sharp, C sharp, C sharp, A, C sharp, F sharp, F sharp. So you could learn it that way, and then you got some left hand in there, and then I've written the chords up top here. So like an A over E. This is the beginning part of the lesson, so I'm just gonna like show them to you in case you're wanting to play that, and that's your theory lesson, because that is theory, like just learning how to play the chords. An A chord is this thing right here. So playing A, C sharp, and E, those three notes together are an A. I'll even zoom in for you and give you the close-up view. Here we go. So A, C sharp, and E. There we go. And so then that's an A chord. And then in your left hand, you also want to play an E. Now, usually like on an A chord, you would play an A. But if there's this slash E, that's like, hey, bass player, don't play what they're playing. Usually on an A chord, the bass player is going to play an A. But in this case, we want the bass player to play an E. So that means your left hand is the bass player on the piano. So your right hand's going to play an A chord, A, C sharp, and E, anywhere you want to. And your left hand, instead of playing an A like it usually would, is going to play an E like that. Now, when we go like to the full-on piano, we're going to spread those out, you know. So you can play this A here and this E right here. Or like I doubled up on my E's because I wanted it's a really big sound like that. So I played this, and I just took notes out of that chord. Played the melody and that. So if you want to just only play the chords, there you go. A over E. You just learned about slash chords. If you didn't know about slash chords before, congratulations. It's a winner. You already have learned something today. You learned about slash chords. Usually the bass player plays the root of the chord, but in this case, if you got a slash, then we're going to have the bass player, your left hand, play something different. All right, we're going to go through the rest of these a little bit more quickly in case you're one of the people who came here for the theory of like the overview of it, and you already know how to play these chords. I'm going to go through these here. This is a D sharp minor 7 with a flat 5, also known as a D sharp half diminished, also known as an E flat half diminished. It's the same set of notes. What's going to happen is you're going to play a D sharp, that's D sharp, and then you'd play a minor chord like that. And then you would add on the 7, which is the note that's a whole step or 2 half steps below the root. There we go. And then this is the 5 of the chord, the 1, the 3, and the 5. 1, 3, 5. This was the 7 that we added in because we counted up from D sharp. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It would be like the 7th note if you followed the minor scale. Just trust me, that's the 7th note right there. So that's the 7th note of the D sharp scale, we'll say. Cool. It's kind of a lie, but it's kind of true. So D sharp minor with a 7, and then this is the 5 of it. 1, 3, and 5. We're going to flat that. So this is a D sharp minor 7 with a flat 5. Yeah, that's kind of crazy. And that's the chord that we want for that. Yeah, right there. So then, and actually, hang on, I'm going to let somebody else in the Zoom. Just a second. And sorry, everybody who's live. All right. And back at it. So then, we've got the A over E to start it, and then D sharp minor 7 with a flat 5, there as the second one. And then we're moving on to the D chord, and a D chord is just like straight up D, F sharp, and A. So we got those 3 notes there. So you play D, F sharp, and A. And then, of course, a D in the left hand, because as we learned a second ago, if we got a D chord here, your bass player, your left hand is going to be playing a D. And then we've got an E at the end of that. So an E chord is just E, G sharp, and B with an E in the left hand. Don't forget, this is the beginner part of it. So this is like assuming that like you haven't done a lot of chords before. We'll be getting into the intermediate, like the overview here in just a minute. But so that's our E chord. So far we have A over E, D sharp minor 7 flat 5, also known as D sharp half diminished, D, and then E. And then we've got, after that, we've got a C over G. So we learned how to do like the over thing, the slash thing. So we've got C, E, and G with a G in the left hand. And then we've got a G flat minor 7 flat 5. I'm just going to give you the notes for that. If you want to play those, it's going to be, that's the G flat, that's the minor 7 with a flat 5. So it's all of those notes right there with a G flat in the bass. Things are about to get simpler, but again, this is an adult's lesson on the theory of the Muppets theme. So we're not really diving into like how to play the song note by note like we would in a kid's lesson or a adult's tutorial. So then we got those notes right there. And then we've got a G chord, and that's G, G, B, and D with a G in the left hand. And for, I'm going to say most beginning students, like that is enough right there. Just if you can learn to play that's a whole ton of chords, and you've already done a whole lot of theory. This next part is the part that's going to loop a whole lot. So if you wanted to, I guess you could just ignore all of that and be like, I don't want to do the intro. And we could start fresh right here. So what we want to play is, you can either play what's written here, which is, ooh, what did I write there? Yeah, good. You could do that. I do want to talk about the theory of it. Maybe we'll do that in a minute after we learn how to play these. So that's a C chord. That's an E flat diminished. I threw in a C there as well. We call that a fully diminished. And then D minor is these notes. And then G7 arguably is this right here, because that'd be the 1, the 3, the 5, the 7, and we also have the 9 in there. So you can play that right there if you wanted to as the G7. Learning to loop that right there is going to show up in a billion trillion songs for reasons that we'll talk about in about 7.5 minutes, I'm guessing. So that thing right there, it already kind of sounds like a thing. Like even apart from the Muppets, this is a thing. And I think that might be all that we're going to do with the beginners for this lesson. If you can learn to get through this second line, you're pretty much set, because we're going to do the tutorial on the individual chords and the individual notes and all that stuff later on. But if you want to, you can have these now. Obviously, just read through it and play through it. But let's go ahead and talk about intermediate kinds of things. Like, for example, the fact that this has the same feel as this thing that we've been calling a turnaround. And a turnaround is playing the 1, the 6, the 2, and the 5 in any key. That's confusing. Let me show you. So if we're in the key of C, that means we've got C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. But more importantly, C is like the focus note. It's like the most important note in the key of C, because it's the key of C. So it's like, it's number 1. And then we would have number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And then the chords built on any of those. So we've got the 1 chord, which is built on the 1. So that's the 1 chord in the key of C. If we're in the key of C, this is the 1 chord. Then if I want to go to the 6 chord, 1, 2, 3, 4, I could go actually backwards. Just 1, 7, 6. There we go. That's going to be easier to get to. So 6 right there. Right there. That is a 6 chord in the key of C. And then a 2 chord in the key of C would be 1, 2. Every other note starting on 2. And then the 5 would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now again, this is a lesson mostly for your head, not really for your hands. So practicing this stuff, that's great. The focus for today is for it to make some kind of sense. So then if you are an intermediate student, an intermediate adult, let's get specific. So then we've got the 1 chord, the 6 chord, the 2 chord, and then the 5 chord. And we're just practicing those could be a thing. 6, 2, 5. 1, 6, 2, 5. We throw in a 1, 6, 2, 5 in the left hand. 1, 6, 2, 5. 1, 6, 2, 5. 1, 6, 2, 5. And this right here is known as a turnaround. It's also something like you can just play it like to keep time. Like if you like, there's someone on stage and they're singing, they're talking about the song that's about to get played. You could pretty much loop this in the background for infinity and no one really notice. It just kind of feels like music is happening in the background. You can just turn around and turn around and turn around and turn around and turn around in a circle and wait for the actual song to begin. Another use for a turnaround is if you're at the end of a song and you want to go back to the beginning of the song, 1, 6, 2, 5 is going to get you back to the beginning of the song. You see, it's like a little interlude that you can play in the middle when like there's nothing else to do, but you want to like go back. You don't want the song to be done yet. You can turn around using a turnaround, which is 1, 6, 2, 5. Now, that all is 1 chord away from this thing that we're doing here. So instead of 1, 6, we're going from a 1 to like a, that's not even in the key. That's a flat 3, 1, 2, 3, but flat, or is it like a sharp 2? Also, importantly, if we like go to the chord that was supposed to be there, because we know that a good turnaround is like 1, 6, 2, 5. It's like A minor right there. So it'd be like C, A minor, D, G, C, A minor, D, G. We have this thing called tritone subs that we do, where sometimes we'll take a chord, especially if we're in a loop like this, to add some variety or add some flavor, we will go 6 half steps away and play that chord instead. So, for example, if I wanted to do a tritone sub for a C chord, I could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I could play an F sharp instead of a C. In this case, that might sound really weird, but in some cases, like this one here, if I go A minor, well, that's my A minor. I want some variety, some spice. Instead of going to the A minor, I want to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I could go to the 6 and play 6 half steps away from that, which is not the 6 of the key. Go to 6 half steps away from the original note, and that is what we call a tritone away from the original note, and that, or even any version of that E flat is gonna kind of be like a extra flavored A minor. So E flat diminished and A minor actually basically functionally the same exact thing. So this right here is gonna be the same feel as I didn't play it. That's what E flat. So the A minor is just like a more plain version of it. But they're both doing the same thing, and that is like doing this turnaround thing over and over. So we have like this turnaround thing that's got extra flavor. Now, this is associated with a guy named George Gershwin and a song called I Got Rhythm. 1, 6, 2, 5. 1, 6, 2, 5, 1, 6, 2, 5. And then every song that was built on the 1, 6, 2, 5, which is like arguably every song in the universe is built on the 1, 6, 2, 5. Some of them are like really, really based on those chords. I haven't tried that in C in a long time. So then this thing, 1, 6, 2, 5, 1, 6, 2, 5, or the variation 1, flat 3, 2, 5. All that to say, it's a thing. And if you practice that in this key and you're like, yeah, cool, I got it. You've got to turn around in the key of C. Cool, nice job. You can also play it in any other key. 1, flat 3, 2, 5, 1. In the key of F, 1, flat 3, 2, 5, 1. And 1, 6, 2, 5. So like, if you like go to like a college and you're like, hey, I want to study jazz, what should I do? Or if you just like ask your friend who plays jazz, hey, I want to do a bunch of jazz stuff, where should I start? They're probably going to say 1, 6, 2, 5s or 2 5s, which means just practice these progressions right here, these chords in every key that you can think of, because a lot of songs are going to reuse this. Now, if we just ask, where are we reusing this? Well, we use it right there. And then the exact same thing shows up again right there. And then the exact same thing shows up again right there. And then the exact same thing shows up again right there. The exact same thing shows up again right there and right there and right there and right there. So I don't know what percent of that song is that. It's at least, I don't know, 20% of the song. Is 25% of the song is just that thing right there, which is like a billion trillion songs, which makes it feel like old timey, because that's like, it's from the era of I Got Rhythm, and they're also playing it in the same style. Also, you can make this sound like any style. So we could go 1 chord, 6 chord, 2 chord, 5 chord. You can play this like, well, that's kind of country. Right? Or you could like play it, I don't know, like the modern pop. Let's see here. Like these don't sound like old timey. But those are all 1, 6, 2 5s. Yeah, other examples. There's too many of them to number, but that set of chords, 1, 6, 2, 5, is totally a thing. There's one more thing that's a thing that I want to show you in here, and that is this guy right here. So then it's time to get things started with the Muppet Show. It's really just this right here. So I'm going to go bracket, the other one I circled, bracket to there. So those chords in there. We're looking at a C, and then what I call the C7 over B flat. You can just play a C actually this whole entire time and move this note down here. So play a C, and then a B flat, and then an A, and then an A flat. So if you play a C up here the whole time. Now, technically, the way that it's written here, you're just like supposed to change chords or whatever. So then you could play like a C chord and then a C7, just include the B flat, or not, because you're already including the B flat here. This next one's gonna be more important. F over A, so that's an F chord, which is Fs and As and Cs in whatever order you want. F, A, C. And then make sure that you have an A in the bass, because that's what that slash is about. And then an F minor, which is F, A flat and C, with an A flat in the bass. So we've got a C, here we go, starting in those brackets, C, C7 over B flat, F over A, F over A flat. It's time to get things started. It's time to... This is definitely a thing. Frequently, this is used as something called a kesh. If you've been here very long, then you're like, oh, that thing again. I never remember what those letters stand for. And that's understandable because it's a contrapuntal, contra that thing, embellishment, I don't think there's 2 L's in there, of a static harmony. There is no reason you should have to remember that, unless, you know, you're an intermediate student and you like, yeah, Beginners are going to say kesh, and the intermediates are going to say no. Beginners aren't going to say anything because the beginners are not worried about keshes. Intermediate students are going to say kesh, and then the advanced students, maybe we're already into the advanced lesson here. The advanced students are going to say contrapuntal embellishment of static harmony, which means you just got to see this sitting there for a long, long time. It's this harmony here that's kind of static, and we wish that we could embellish it with some like counterpoint or something. So then instead of the left hand staying stable with that chord, with that static harmony, this is going to be a little counterpoint to it. It's going to be like, well, you're going to stay the same, so I'm going to move. Also, we get these similar keshes in like minor songs where it'll be, it's like, hey, I've heard that before. Where have I heard that? Everywhere. It's a kesh. It's a chord that stays the same, and your left hand's like, how could I make this sound like it's moving even though it's not really moving? It's all staying on one chord. So this is kind of thing. Also, you know, then move it into like modern music. Hey, I've heard that before. Where is that? What is that? It's a kesh. It's a kesh. It's a kesh. It's just, if I got this chord, and so I'm going to move my left hand around so it makes it feel like there's motion even though there's not really motion. Cool. All right, so that's kind of what's happening here. Bum, 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 ba-da-ba, bum, 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 ba-da-ba. And that's going to actually happen 3 times in a row down here. Check it out. Brackety kesh. Brackety kesh. The brackets just because I'm putting brackets on it, but not because that's a musical thing. Bracket for a kesh. There we go. Yeah, so now if we take out, let's see here, where else do we have a brackety kesh? Right there. Kesh in brackets. So if you just learn, well, you learn the intro. That's a thing that we worked on. And we'll talk about more about that in a second. And then you learn this turnaround thing and the kesh thing, then that is almost the whole entire song. All you really have to do is learn the end of this, and then we'll talk about that next week during the tutorial. But you're going to come into the tutorial not only already knowing all of the chords pretty much for the whole song, but also knowing why they are a thing. That this is a turnaround, because we're probably not going to say those words at all in the lesson. And also, then we should talk about this beginning part right here, because this beginning part's important. We've got 3 sharp signs right there, and then 3 natural signs right there. And so we have a change of keys here. And so we're going to take a look at these over here. These sharp signs are on this line right here. That's cutting through that. On this space right here, there's no line there, and this space right here. And so let's start with this line. This first one is on the line of F, and we're in the advanced lesson, so I'm not going to go through the lines and spaces of the treble clef, but hopefully you already know that line is an F if you're in the advanced lesson, and then this note is a G here, and that this note is a C right here. And so all the Fs are going to be sharp, all the Cs are going to be sharp, and all the Gs are going to be sharp, which is why down here, inside the note, it says C sharp. Even though there's no sharp sign over here, they wouldn't put a sharp sign there because they already put one up there. They already told you all the C's are going to be sharp, so they're not going to give you a sharp as a warning sign right here at the beginning. There we go. Move some of that out of the way. So then we've got all the C's, all the F's, and all the G's are going to be sharp because we're kind of in the key of A right here, and that is the key of A is C sharp, F sharp, and G sharp. So the whole thing starts with, and then we switch keys, and in this new key, what we're trying to tell you is we got these natural signs. So natural just means not sharp. And like, why would you put natural signs there? Because before we had F sharp and G sharp and C sharp, and now it's saying, hey, all those ones that were sharp before, we're going to turn those into just regular notes. We got no more sharps or flats over here. So now when we play, now wait, I went to F there? Ooh, that's wrong. I gotta fix that for next week's tutorial. All right, so it should go, if you're using this as a tutorial, then make sure on that one you go to, that should be G. Yeah, And then we go into our turnaround. Okay, so let's review here. What did we learn today? We learned, well, if you were in the beginner lesson, we learned about slash chords and how sometimes you play a chord and then something else in the bass. Hello, Brian. Good to see him. Good to hear from you. Good to see from you. I don't know what you're supposed to say on the internets. And then we learned about minor 7 flat 5 chords and how those are also called half diminished chords. We talked about changing keys. We talked about a turnaround. We talked a lot about a turnaround. And then we talked about keshes. Yeah, and I feel like if you go into next week's lesson with that understanding, this song is going to make a lot more sense, and there's got to be way less to memorize, because now all you got to memorize is all the parts that don't have the blue ink on them, and it's not really that much. Just some regular chords in here. Got an F chord, a C chord, an E chord, an A minor. Those are all regular chords. So all the weird stuff with the minor 7 flat 5s and all the fast stuff, you're going to be set for that. And then you can also play just that. And then you can like sing along with it without even knowing how to play the melody. You can already play the background of it. All right. I think if you have that much down, then you understand a lot about what's going on in this song. And then next week, when we actually try to attack the notes individually, you're going to be way ahead of the game. Unless you came here after watching that one because you live in the future, in which case, congratulations. And hopefully the song makes more sense after all that work you put into learning the song. Coming back and learning the theory of it hopefully helps out a little bit. But until next time, go explore, mess up, have fun, rock on.